Need a motion to approve last month's minutes. We have a motion and a second on last month's minutes. All in favor say aye. Aye. Let's see, first thing on the agenda tonight is City Hall update on the punch list.
Well, I think Seth is going, I talked to Seth and he said that you was going to kind of update us on where we were on that.
I apologize for not knowing the punch list any better than I do. I did talk to Steve before I came up here concerning the council on the brick. He's scheduled to come this week. He said he had some cleaner in here. He's going to put on the plight and get it off. So other than that, is there any other punch list items?
Yeah, Seth was here last month. He
Went over.
he addressed.
Has anybody been up here to do anything since
Now, one of the things that's holding us up is actually the weather. Because we've had so much wind, that's one reason why you haven't done the spraying of the phosphorus.
I don't guess they've done the windows yet either, have they?
And they can't do the windows, they're kind of waiting for the weather broke.
Okay.
We've had somebody recover air up here.
So there was an issue with the HVAC.
Yeah, I was here that day. They come in, was working on thermostats. I think the biggest trouble was thermostats, wasn't
Well, they were here all day on, last week.
it? Okay, it was back.
Monday last week, they were here all day. Guns up. They had like a little, I don't know what they're doing. They used to know
I talked to that one guy's in here that one day checking the temperature in the vents and all that, and he said he had something wrong with one of the thermostats. They was plus programming them too, so, and they had never been programmed or something. Yeah, that's right. I guess had to give us a little education on how to even work them, but I think they got that took care of, didn't they?
They left and didn't come in out there. I just heard them for them.
Yeah.
They left it, they got here at 8, left at 4.
They made a day of it.
They made a day of it anyway, but I guess it's like Kenneth said, the weather's been kind of holding up on the windows and.
And the outside brick there.
Mm-hmm. So.
I wish I had a punch list in front of me. I look like
Well, Seth.
over here asking y'all about the punch list, but.
Well, Seth's he's been being updated on it every time, so.
Okay.
And,
Which I had talked to Seth before the meeting, and he had been in contact with Steve. And he said he was gonna send Holly up. But like I said, the weather is the main holdup on the things that's going on the outside. As soon as the weather breaks and you get a warm day where the wind ain't blowing 25 miles an hour, he's gonna spray the building with the phosphorus. And then whenever it gets to where it looks like it's gonna have a 4 or 5 days with no rain and nice weather, they're supposed to work on the windows.
It looks like it's better than it was.
Well,
They done.
warmed up is,
It is a whole lot better than it was.
Next thing under old business is the disaster grant, our generators.
I believe Chris,
Yeah.
will let him.
Yeah, we'll give a little update on that. We are pending some steps to be fabricated by Caterpillar. 4 of the 5 generators, maybe 3 of them, there's a specification for the height of the LCD panel to be 5 foot and 6 inches above grade so that you can actually see what was going on. And so Wade's working on coordinating with Caterpillar to get those fabricated and installed. We're also pending the test reports on the generators. So as far as I know, they've all been started and all have been tested with load bank cells, and so now we're just waiting to get those test reports to review them from Caterpillar. Once we do that, we ought to be able to respond to Wade's request for substantial completion, do that certification. And then I drove around this evening checking things out. everything looked pretty good on the outside on cleaning up, and they got some of the hay down, trying to get some of that grass growing. How much seed is left out, how much wind is left there. So we ought to be able to get the final completion done pretty quick after we issue the substantial completion. Just waiting on the what's there, just on the platforms, however they want to do them, so that you get up there and actually see and read the LCD panels.
So are they actually in service now? If we lose power, they'll come
I
on?
believe so. They did the training with you guys as well. So I think they're all programmed.
Okay.
Did you guys get enough of training to feel like you understand what's going on with them?
Showed us how to operate,
Okay, good.
how to change fluids in it, and all that stuff.
Okay, so we don't need any more of that. That was one important aspect for me, to make sure they gave you guys enough time that y'all felt comfortable with them and how they operated.
Which they work all back with, so
Yeah.
they whole lot we have to do to them.
Good, good. All right.
Okay.
I haven't spoken to Dean in the last week or so, but where we at on the pump station on the Hurricane tree? Because we didn't get the tree removed before the date that we needed it removed from.
Yeah, I went down there and saw that was gone. I talked to Tiny Blades, who's the new contact at GNRC. She advised me that she is submitting the addendum to the environmental review
Okay.
to ECD on the 9th, so that's Wednesday. It'll take, she said, anywhere from a week or two for them to send us a letter calling a release of environmental conditions, saying that there is an impact and that we can move forward on putting the project out to bid. Before we can put it out to bid, we have to send GNRC the plans and specifications for GNRC's review, and they forwarded to ECD, and then we'll get the final approval from ECD.
We're still moving forward with that.
It's still moving forward, yeah, there's nothing that, I'm sure if there was something that was gonna hold it up, Tanya would have kindly advised me of it. Yeah, hopefully, our goal is to get things advertised by the first of the month if we can, if ECD will turn their review of the environmental addendum quickly. I mean, the plans and specs are sitting on my desk already packaged, ready to walk straight to the state as soon as they say bring them to. So,
That's good.
Anybody have any questions for Chris on the generators? If not, we'll move on to the next item under old business, and that's the school board update and water loss management. I don't know if Seth talked to you, Holly, on that.
I did review that proposal stuff.
Okay. You got the floor.
Okay. Well, obviously, we have three options for the program. I don't know if the council's had time to look.
We did not get it out to them for just before the meeting.
We only got it Friday.
Right, we received it Friday.
Okay. Just to summarize it, I guess, these options, Seth put together in this proposal for a long-term solution for water compliance with the new standards that the state is putting forth for water districts and such. And if you go with the proposal in front of you now.
Well, we've got a rough draft of it. We got the big, yeah.
Okay. There's three options. The third option being the one that we would most recommend. And I'll start with that one. It would include water, help with the water audit or doing the water audit for you. A comprehensive leak detection twice a year for the whole system. Master meeting testing and calibration, bulk sales testing and calibration, and residential meter testing. And just to give you some more detail, he breaks it down. Acoustic survey of all water services annually. Flow plates, leak detection and correlation of cross-country mains, creek crossings, etc. as required. Emergency on-call leak detection services, which includes 8 hours of emergency leak detection. Annual testing of master meters, which are 3. An annual bulk sales meter testing, 1. Aaron's that's the one that's recommended. Annual cost of that, here is at $19,926. A monthly cost will be $1,661. Cost per customer is $1.21. Option 2, or the intermediate option, would be a biannual acoustic leak survey, master meter and bulk meter testing, the AWWA water audit, and the 8 hours of emergency leak detection, and the flow-based leak detection as required for cross-country lines. The option 2 basically is option 3 without the residential meter testing. And then the base option, option 1, would be the acoustic leak survey twice a year, master meter and bulk meter testing, and for the 3 meters and the emergency hearing connection meter. And option 2 cost, going back to the intermediate option, annual cost will be $11,538. Monthly cost $962. Per customer will be 70 cents a meter. And the base option, annual cost $6,588. Monthly cost $549, 40 cents per customer.
Mayor, we need to inform the board of the meeting that we
Well-
had last week. We met with the lady?
Joyce.
Joyce, and she actually gave us an extension on the date that we had to be at Nashville to implement some of these programs. And Seth actually had a presentation that he wanted to give the board. So this is something that we can actually wait to next month. She gave us a date of June the 15th for us to have a working plan in her office to make a decision on. There actually could be a possibility that we do not have to go to Nashville to have this meeting with the board. If we present to her that we're actually trying to come up with solutions on our own. Once, whatever we write in our plan of action though, we have to fulfill it. I mean, we can't get started and say, well, let's just leave this out. Whatever we say we're going to do, we've got to do. As long as we follow our plan of action to the way we present it to her, that we will be okay.
And it's got to satisfy her.
Right, it's got to satisfy her, and then she'll take it before her bosses, and they can actually grant us a stay for 3 years for us to come into compliance. She said, we didn't get into this situation overnight, and we're not going to get out of it overnight. But these costs that Holly has brought out here, Seth did call me and tell me that he would not be able to make it, and he actually wanted us to have a special call meeting so he could actually present to the board his proposal on these. He's got a computer slideshow, and he can go just a little bit more in depth and probably answer some of our more technical questions that Nancy would probably have. But it's something that we do not have to take action on tonight, I feel like. You've kind of got something to ponder over for the next month. But next month, we'll probably have to we'll have a budget, and whatever our water increase will be, we'll have it to be voted on. And then we'll have to she made us some really good suggestions in the meeting, and that's what Nancy's working on now, and we'll put all them forth in an operation plan. We'll get it to y'all. And we just need to have all this to where we can give it to her by the 15th of June. So we could actually not even have to go to Nashville. So that's where we're at on this. And Seth apologized for not being able to be here tonight to answer any questions, but he said he would be here next month and try to do a slide presentation for us and kind of give you an idea of what he's talking about and answer some of the questions that we have.
This, Holly, this is an ongoing, we sign up for this is going to be an ongoing more of a leak management type.
Yes,
To keep
sir.
from getting back in this situation again.
That's correct. That's correct.
This includes, y'all doing leak detection now, finding where our leaks are at now.
That's exactly right. That'd probably be the first thing we would do, Tony, is go over the whole system and find the obvious leaks that we can find.
Right.
And then, after that, begin to schedule in some meter testing and, the big meters, obviously, and then, do some of the other things that are on there. And then when your water audit comes around, be available to to do that for you as well. Seth goes on into the detail of this proposal, more why you do it and the numbers and how much you get back and
Right.
and this and that you all can review that I don't want to
Right.
stumble on today, but we're doing the same thing in New Johnsonville for them, and it's been working out pretty good. Finishing up a year of that with them coming up this summer, so I think everything.
Did y'all find some leaks in their system?
Yeah, we have been, and so much so that they really, we're completing the second round of leak detection for them for this year, and we're coming back on leaks that we found the last time that they hadn't been able to get around to fix, and we understand that can be a problem too. But it keeps a reminder going anyway of, hey, this hydrant over here has been leaking, we need to, do something about it, or so-and-so meter, is leaking or something like that, so it's really helpful, we found out.
Holly, in the state, they're raising their compliance the next few years, aren't they?
They're gonna be raising it every year, Tim. I don't wanna get this wrong, let's see here. I understand that, the city had a 71 validity score on this past audit, and I wanted to say that, that's gonna be going up.
How much?
It's gonna be going up, it's going to increment a little bit more each year.
For the next few
To get a
years.
higher score. I think you gotta
Which
have
means,
80.
basically
You gotta
means
have 80 by 2017.
you gotta lose less and less water.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta
She
lose.
did mention that the other day at the
Yeah.
meeting, that they're really,
Not only is it the loss of the water that you're not getting paid for, but it's the checks that you use to see how much water you're using, and that's where that validity score is all about. They want to see that you're actively checking these things and how you're doing it and what you're doing to do that. And that goes a long way with it,
How old are our meters?
We actually have implemented, you haven't been here the last couple of months, and we have bought
New ones.
a pallet of meters, and we're implementing all of ours that's in around $1 million and over. We're replacing them with new meters. And another thing that the lady brought up the other day, which it's actually up a little bit this month, our I&I is slipping back up. That's where we rehabbed the manholes a couple of 3 years ago. We're gonna have to get in and, we're gonna have to get our guys to go down like today, a couple, 3 days after rain, start plugging manholes, find out where we're getting our infiltration at, if we've got cracked pipe. I know a couple of places that we found last time, we actually had in video down the Harrison Creek, and we didn't end up with those cracks in the pipe. It was one of them spots, I believe, they found a hole, but it wasn't
We
really a
had a
crack.
couple years too.
But we've steadily been easing up, and one of our things when we done this manhole repair to pay back is we was gonna cut out of our electric bill. What we was gonna save on electric pumping here was actually gonna pay for this project. Well, now we're getting up to the point where we're not making a whole lot of headway on that. And that's one thing that's actually got this water audit, it is figured in there. And those checks that we're writing to Erin every month for rainwater that we're not getting paid for is one thing that's got our audit jacked out of shape. Because everything that goes through that pipe and goes through the bottom of the hill of Malden Lane, we're under agreement with Erin that we've got to pay them so much, whether it be rainwater or sewer water. And it may actually be some of these old manholes that we didn't touch that's in the city here that could be causing our problem. Because most of those are still got the clay pipe and they've been slip lined. Which what happens when they slip line them, they take a piece of plastic pipe smaller than the pipe that's there, and there's about a 1/4 inch void all the way around it. And if it don't get sealed up in them old brick manholes, you could still end up with an issue. And I talked to Philip about it a couple of weeks ago, and he says it's always about 2 days after rain when they see the increase down there, and that's the reason why he's thinking it may be some type of an infiltration problem around some of our older manholes that we have not rehabbed. Because a lot of these up here in the old part of the city, that had been slip line. When did we slip line that? Mid-90s?
Yeah,
So we did not do nothing to none of the connection points on it, and it may end up being an issue that could be caused. I don't know, it's just something that we're gonna have to start going out a couple, 3 days after rain and checking where our flows are picking up to try to get a handle on it. That'll help us as much in this audit as some of the other things that we're gonna implement doing. Because we're not bringing nothing in on the water tap side of that, and it's all falling from the sky, and we're paying here in the tree.
right.
So that's another thing that on the I&I that we're gonna have to take care of
Well,
ourselves.
After we did the manhole project, it went way down. I mean, we've done good for a couple of, what's it been, 2 years now?
Yeah.
Now it's starting
But it's-
easing back up.
Yeah, it's counting this month, last 4 months, it's just been.
And the state will, if we don't do something, the state will come in here and set rates.
Yes.
Well, I'm gonna tell you
If
what
we
the lady
continue to
told
be
us.
in the
She
red.
said
Yeah,
we-
she made it pretty plain.
She told
Yeah.
us that for y'all to get y'all books where they need to be, you gotta have a 30% increase.
Yeah.
Said now you gotta find what you can do to compensate.
That
for
happened over in Henry for their sewer.
Yeah, it
Their
did.
sewer rates over there are like $100 a bill. I mean, it's really expensive. And because they had 3 or 4 years in a row where they were operating in the red, and the state won't let that happen,
Mm-mm.
no matter. So it's important for us to be more proactive,
Right.
because even if we have to raise rates, it's better than what the state will come in here and do. Because they will make sure that they raise it enough to where
Compensate.
it compensates plus.
There are some things we can do besides just the flat water rate. She explains different things we gotta go up on, but like, reconnect fees and,
Turn on,
turn off, meter
Reread.
rereads and all that,
Fees for like new customer, you increase.
Yeah, water tap fees, road bore fees, different things she said we can look at, and the water rate, but, so,
But when they come in and said it, it's,
But you know, if you come in here and you set this water rate tonight at 30%, if you do nothing to take care of the problem, next year you're gonna roll in here and you're gonna have to go up another.
You gotta
10%.
take care of the problem.
So that's the reason why we need to.
and plus, I don't think anybody here wants to be treating 40% of our water and running it out in the creek, so I mean, it was,
Especially now the light bill's gone up and
yeah.
possibly going again.
And then that actually ends up, because after we talked about what we had planned on doing, she said, well, that's not all of your problem. That's when she hammered us on
Yeah,
infiltration,
Right.
which they call I&I.
right,
She said, you've got to curb this, or your
Yeah.
rates on everything just keep going up after all.
Right.
But her suggestion was that if you don't want to forego this, put your rates up to 30%, and then come back next year, and I'll have to go up again. If you don't do nothing to take care of this issue, your rates are going to continue to climb.
the state's really cracking down on that kind of stuff, like with the stormwater.
right.
I don't think it'll affect us because we're a little too small, but for some larger cities, they're coming down on that kind of stuff too.
So that's what we're looking at in the near future, very near future.
Nancy, are you working on the budget to include like that last, or have you even looked at it? You had
Yeah,
just
I
got this.
just got this Friday, and no, that's not, I'm not at that stage
Okay.
yet. But that's, I just don't want to comment on that right now.
We'd just like to hear just a little more about
Okay.
it.
Yeah, I understand. I just, if the budget, if we're gonna look at the budget next month, is it gonna include 1 or 2 of these options?
Cross-country line, Nancy, is where we don't have any listening points to be able to do the conventional easy way of listening for the leak. So what we would do is valve it off downstream and install we've got a strap-on flow meter that we put on upstream, and we can see with how much flow is going through that flow meter if there's a leak downstream or not. If it's 30 gallons a minute and there's 2 services on that stretch of line, then we know there's a main line break. We've been doing this over in Williamson County. It's been highly successful. We just recently found a 24-inch main line leak over there, and no way we would have been able to find that without this using this flow meter, this strap-on flow meter. And what they did was dig a pit at their tank, and we strapped it on up there, and we were able to do a lot of the system with one pit, strapping it on, and then valving, opening and closing valves down through the system. So it's not a lot of front end work, but it does good for the main line stuff.
Okay, good. I have a question. Are you going to make some kind of a plan
Yes.
and,
We're in the process right now of putting that together. She's working the budget up. We're gonna put this plan together, and by next month, you'll have a plan of action that we're gonna have to.
Submit to her,
submit to?
Joyce, or the state comptroller's office.
Pass and submit.
And the first reading of the budget will take what we was talking the other night about a water increase. It'll take care of that part of it, and then it'll probably address your rereads and things along that nature. Because we have some customers that call you out a couple of times each month and my meter's not right. Well, at the present time, we're not charging to go reread. And she told us we need to be, because we do not need to lose no money going to check this meter. If it finds out to be a fault of ours, we don't charge it. But if it's just a leaky commode or a pipe broken on the house, they have to pay the reread charge on it. So she actually has some good suggestions on what to do to actually make up some of the loss that we're incurring. And those are things that I don't guess we had ever really thought about. And then another suggestion she had is to do away with the deposit system and go to a connection fee. Where if you'll notice you've got a connection fee on your light bill every month of a certain amount. And that's what people will pay rather than come in here to put a deposit down. You'll compensate, well, what is the connection worth to this person? So you'll put a connection fee, and then plus the usages will adjust to that.
Plus that cuts down a lot of the, I guess, clerical work on keeping up with deposits. For me and you've had a deposit for 40 years, that's still on the books that they have to show
And account for.
as long as you're living with that deposit.
And it's also considered a liability.
Yeah, right.
We basically, if you move or sell the house, we owe that back to you.
Right.
So that's a liability.
We're actually probably still one of the water systems in the state that actually still have meter deposit, is what she told us right here. So
Yeah.
most all small systems and all large ones, it went to a user fee. What you do, you end up, like you said, you'll end up losing a little money on people that just doesn't move out in the middle of the night, but you actually gain a little bit off of it too, in the same aspect. Because we're not like, some things they'll let run over a few days, but here, whenever the due date is, your meter's paid or it's cut off. So we're not gonna end up running a month and a half or a 2-month bill and be stuck with it. But there's a lot of other things that she told us in this meeting that'll actually help us to make it where we're actually getting paid for everything we do.
What is it, Nancy, if we cut them off now and come back on $40?
Or you mean that when we cut them off for non-payment,
Wow.
that's $30.
$30?
And she suggested some of those fees could be,
After our connection fees could be increased, because I think we charge just a flat rate either way.
No, it's 45 after hours, but we tend not to do any after hours because it's legally, they have to bring the money to this office to be receipted.
Do you know how our rates compare with other cities our size? As far as the rest of the
I
state?
do know.
I know there was a study that was done, but I don't know what. I'm sure it's not. I mean, we're pretty good, I would say.
Yeah. They base it on, where we have 2,000, 0 to 2,000, a lot of people have 1,000 and 1,000 to,
Yeah.
I mean, and 1,001 to maybe
3,000.
3,000 and 3,001 to 5,000.
Talking about gallons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where ours is just 0 to 2,000, and
I'm sure it's
she
pretty
actually
good.
recommended reducing the minimum gallons
Right.
also.
Her suggestion was on the minimum gallons is what we emphasized to her that we wanted to protect was the retired folks that was on a fixed income. Kind of do a survey of your system and see what their average water bill usage is and set that as a minimum. And then adjust your rate and so forth on anything under that. She said I could pick you up, you know, you're going from 1,500 or 2,000 and you drop down to 500. Well, that's another 1,500 gallons of water, 15,000, 1,500, that you'll actually be paid for. I don't know if I got my mind.
500.
Yeah, that's an extra 1,500 gallons worth of water. If you drop your minimum down to 500, and then that's another, what are we at now, 15?
No, we're 2,000.
2,000. So that's another 1,500 gallons of water that you'll actually be able to charge for that you've been given at a minimum charge.
And once the new meters that we have are implemented, that will pick up more too. I'm sure.
Yeah, I believe.
Especially these ones that are old.
About a meter would we probably see about a 5% increase
Yeah,
in our water sales just from
just
changing
from new meters.
the older meter.
Any more questions? Now's the time to, Mr. Rise on the floor or whoever can answer anything you want to ask.
So New Johnsonville been pleased with what's going on,
I
Holly?
think so, Ken, yeah. Yeah. And,
They pick option 3,
You know,
is that?
call Kelly, right?
yeah, do it.
You
Let
know
do it, man.
You know it.
They did pick option 3. Their system's a little larger, so their
Yeah.
cost was a little greater.
Yeah,
From what I understand, we're estimating that the city could recover about $40,000 worth
yeah.
of what you're not getting now. So if you really work at it, so it's always that to look forward to.
And like I said, the state's gonna do it if we don't take steps. The state's gonna come in here and raise rates anyway. I mean,
That aggravates you, you know?
yeah. And then they'll be really paying attention to everything else after
Right.
they have to do that.
So next month's meeting, you'll have
Budget.
the budget. And
Go from there. I mean, I'm working on it.
well, most of the budget will reflect our plan of action because it's
Yes.
going to be all in the budget. So
Yeah, that's what I gotta wait to see what kind of numbers I got, so. And I'd love to do the last one.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that one,
that would help us on our audit and everything.
yeah.
But I mean, I know it's
See,
check the budget. I know.
There's not a lot you can go down on in water storage, electricity and chemicals and lab fees. I've been looking.
Well,
The idea is for it to pay for itself. I know y'all just mentioned the electric bill.
yeah. I mean,
The
that's
lift
what
station's supposed to do the same thing, but
that's what we're looking at. If it will generate enough to pay for itself, you know, it's
Oh, yeah, yeah.
we don't want. I mean, if it'll just break even with it, would be nice for us. But
Right, right.
uh,
We did I'll tell you this real quick, 1 week over in Silken Pond over in Dixon County. And but they buy all their water. And the guy saw Daddy at one of those gas stations up there, the guy that runs it. And he said their bill from Dixon was down, just after that 1 week, after they fixed the leaks, it was down like 15,000 or something for 1 month, just on leaks. And so, you know, you can take that and then you get your meters right and all that other, it starts adding up. Sure does.
Kent, we done installed 50 meters.
Have y'all, I know y'all was, at the last meeting, y'all was up around 20.
Yeah, we done installed half.
Y'all done got-
we
done got 50
installed
of them,
half
sir?
What y'all bought.
Well, that's good. We'll get you another 1,000.
Have you seen anything that's out of the ordinary yet on any of them that you've changed out?
What are the new kind you put in with brand?
The AB,
ABB?
Zenners.
Zenners.
We got ABs and Rockles and
What are they made of? Like, material, is it aluminum or is it, it's not, I mean, it's not
Brass?
most of them got a brass bottom.
brass?
A lot of the interior on is plastic. So
Oh, okay.
So that was another additional cost. They changed, they used to have lead in them. And it made about a $10 increase per meter. They went
Well,
from
because the state's
35.
cracking down on that too.
Right. So the meters end up running us around $45 a piece now. 45, 40, somewhere in that neighborhood. Where they was in 34, 35.
So
they're
they
about
went up on
$10 higher.
Some of them you are changing out to the oldest ones, ain't they?
yes.
Anybody else have any questions? I know it sounds a lot to take in all at one time, it's confusion, but next month, like she said, next month's budget will reflect a lot of it, so I'm sure there'll be a whole lot more discussion then too, so.
Do you have anything in writing that Joyce recommended that we do, or anything that we can just look over next month, or whatever her recommendations? are?
No,
Do you
I
have
mean,
anything that
Stoney
is
actually
involved?
asked her for her notes, and she wouldn't let us.
She wouldn't
have
let them have, she wouldn't let them have.
But, I've got an email in there where she gave us the, postponement, but I don't have anything writing yet. We have to submit the plan to her, and then she'll send that to us.
I believe she gave us the ideas and
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, the ideas that she gave y'all, and there's a lot to comprehend in there at one time, you know, if it's down on a piece of paper where you can look at it and see
What
what
she
you're
wrote
talking about or
down-
thinking about.
she wrote down what we talked about. And it's just like 1 or 2 words. There was no long definition of paragraph.
And she wouldn't let me have,
And
I guess she
we
didn't
told
want,
her
she,
Stoney asked her for a copy of it.
that's, cause I wanted something, you know, to, but I guess she didn't want to think that she was leading us on to do something, or she wouldn't give them to me.
Which you have the notes that you took in the meeting,
Yeah.
which is basically identical to
Right.
what she took. But she would not give us a copy of what she did have. We asked her for.
I mean, her notes, your notes, whatever, you know, just saying, you know, like, she suggested that we do this, you know, just simple 1, 2, 3, do this, do that, to where, you know, we have something to look at, to where, you know, my mind's not as good as it used to be, and I don't remember as well as when somebody said something, if I got it in front of me to read, then, you know, I could comprehend more of what I'm talking about, or thinking about, or what's going on.
Stoney knows mine, official.
The way I took it, she wanted us to come up with our own plan of action, and if it's suited the board, suited her, she would take it to the board. And the board would review it and let us know if it was satisfactory or not, then we would or would not have to go to Nashville in June.
In other words, they kind of want to know if we're smart enough to figure out all
Right.
the problems
Right,
without them giving us.
right,
And then we'll be on probation for 3 years.
for 3 years.
You know, you go on probation until you come back in the red. I mean, go on.
Till we actually show a profit.
15. You're still under the board, till you're in the black.
They'll let you go on the red what, 1 year?
2, ain't it?
2. And after that second year, then that's when they,
They step in.
yeah,
That's the Tennessee law.
yeah, yeah. It's
That's
same
when,
with sewer.
that's when, Barge, Wagner, and Ride get to fund their 401K.
Yeah.
And the map,
But, like I said, Nancy she'll have a budget put together on what we're gonna have to do before next month, and we'll review it next month. And see what we can come up with, and we'll be talking to Seth and,
yeah,
Holly
I
and
know
them.
we'd love to have the opportunity to present to y'all.
right,
That's his thing, and I know he wanted to do that tonight. You got me, so I apologize for that.
We're glad to have you, Holly.
Thank you, Tim.
This isn't something, I mean, lots of cities are facing this.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not just
Yeah, that's
us.
what she told us.
Yeah, it's lots of
it's
cities
just
facing
not us,
this.
yeah.
She's been to what? She had 3 to go to that
She had
night?
3 that day, and she's been to Purrier, and,
Henry was,
you know,
it's still going through.
and I guess the Aaron's still dealing with it, so.
Yeah, it's a lot of cities, especially cities our size or about our size. It's,
Holly, you got anything on the school board update?
Only thing I have, Mayor, is, I've got a map that I copied before I came up here, and, I just see an
Okay,
easement parcel here.
do what? Who needs to sign?
I've got it.
No, Steve did an ordinance.
Oh, okay, it's an ordinance,
And it's in the-
Okay.
that language attached to the ordinance.
okay.
But everything's still moving forward on it.
Yes, sir.
The school board hasn't heard anything yet.
I'm not sure, Ms. Hill, I'm really not, I'm not sure. I apologize again for not being more well versed on it, but I know there's some plans out there done,
they're probably waiting on us to approve it yet.
Probably.
I'm not sure if they've been on it, but all indications is been moving as planned.
I believe
Okay,
this was actually one of the things that they wanted to secure before they moved any forward on the land, as it said.
It's probably so.
Secure the easement.
Probably so.
I'm sure they'd want to know they had this easement from the city before
before they,
go ahead and
Okay.
fund the project and get started on it. And they probably would, the checklist.
okay, so I guess we're up for a second reading on that now, so.
And it is a good second reading, and it provides that, if the project's not begun by the Board of Education within 24 months of final adoption of the ordinance, that the ordinance would be rolled and terminated.
Okay.
Sam thought it would take, he thought that was period.
Let's take the,
They need to make sure that they, just to be safe, that that plan gets done or begun way in advance of that, but with the funding and all that kind of thing, we want to make sure that we had adequate time in there. We suggested 24 months. That's kind of the reason.
okay. So I guess we're ready for a second reading on that, ain't we?
I'm gonna slip out now. I appreciate it. Any more questions?
Thank you,
You-
Howard.
Anybody have any more questions for Holly before he leaves? If not, we'll let him cut him loose. See you. See here, see, it's got the, you ready for the second reading on the ordinance, then he's got the ordinance ready here. That we done passed once, so.
I make a motion, we approve the second reading granting of the ordinance granting an easement to Board of Education.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second on ordinance 2014-167 on the Board of Education easement. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Oh, yeah.
I prepare that easement and get a piece of the sign.
Okay. I noticed the next reading here is striping the Mobley Lane. I noticed they, did that last week.
Yes, I actually got back with Herb Brothers, and I told him with the link that we had, I asked him if he had the state contract, and he said, well, he said, I don't have per se a contract with the state, but he said, I have the one you're working on, and I told him our problem is anything over $2,500 that we had to bid out. He come back and dropped his line price per mile to $4.75, which brought us in at $24.71 or something like that. So we actually, he has done our side and Aaron's side, both in the same week.
I noticed that one day he stopped right there at the Aaron's. But I guess
He told me, he said, look, I know I'm gonna get your side today. He said, man, I can get Aaron's. He said, your contact us, I'll get you first, and then I'll finish him. I just figured it'd start at one end
Yeah.
and on the other. He didn't wanna do it that way. But he got down here, I called him the day after our meeting, he called me back. And then I guess within the week, he told me, he said, I'll get with Aaron, because Aaron wanted to paint hers at the same time, so we both have nice lines on the
Right.
road. And then he called me back probably the first of the next week, said he'll be down here such and such date, and he made it. And got it.
well, it looks good. I don't know if you've been come up.
I haven't, if I've been that way, I haven't noticed it, but I have had 3 or 4 people tell me they really appreciate it.
Yeah, it looks good.
So,
And it's a whole lot, it's night and raining.
Yeah.
And
But after I seen the other lines they put down, them $1,000 a mile lines are really nice. You look at it, you see,
Oh,
man,
then it glow at
they
night.
glow at night.
No,
That's
yeah.
how bright they are, but it is a polymer bead that melts and adheres to the road. But I think the expectancy on them was 5 years. So maybe next time the white lines will hold up when it's do the same.
Well,
Still have the same money.
yeah.
but I've heard a lot of compliments on it, that it was needed. I think it was needed, so.
Yeah, me too. So and the lawnmower blades, we got them come in.
Did Jerry order them?
I don't know whether he did or not.
I knew he was supposed to order them. I don't know if they come in yet.
I haven't asked him.
I think he's checking with a guy in Nashville about getting them.
Oh, that right?
I thought they come from Italy.
It's just coming from somewhere. Way
That's where
off.
we used to get them from, but there's a man in Nashville that has some blades that look just like them. He's checking with him.
Oh, okay. So I guess we need a second reading on the ordinance 2014-166. I hear a motion and a second on that.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Oh, yeah.
I guess this will be under old business. The fire truck we discussed last month that we sold. Kenneth, you was
Yeah, I don't believe that we brought that up to the board. 'Cause
Oh,
we didn't
okay.
know New Johnsonville lost a fire truck, like one of those brush trucks. And if you'll look in your fire department report, look on the back page. I was under the understanding it was New Johnsonville. Okay, I should have read the letter, shouldn't I? But I didn't. I was under the assumption that it was New Johnsonville. Wrong city.
I just wanted to make sure
Same
it wasn't a
county.
typo there.
Yeah, he told me, you told me McKenna when you said that. Said Johnsonville on your mind.
Okay. Yeah, I heard New Johnsonville.
We're talking about Johnsonville.
They wrecked the truck, or a truck was lost, and they contacted us to see if we'd be interested in selling one of ours. We really are not, but to help them out being in a tight spot, we're needing another Spencer would like to have another four-wheel drive vehicle. And he asked if he sells this truck for the 6,000. I think we've got about 5,000 in the purchase of the truck and the paint job. So we're gonna make a little bit of a profit on the selling, but he wants to hold the $6,000 in his budget. If, he said he didn't think he would find one before the end of this year, but for next year, if he could hold that $6,000 in there, the line item to replace and get him a four-wheel drive truck that they could fight brush fires with. And I told him that I'd bring it up before the board. He says that if you can't do that, he'd rather just keep the vehicle.
Is there a problem with holding money like that from something in a budget,
You can't hold money.
All right, over the year.
It has to revert back to the general fund, it has to be reappropriated.
Okay,
But what he wants is he just put in with a line item,
okay.
$6,000 for the
Oh.
purchase of a four-wheel drive vehicle for the fire department.
Does he have a four-wheel drive vehicle now?
We've got one old truck that actually used to be the water department's truck, which I don't believe they drive it that much anymore.
Is he gonna be able to get the four-wheel drive for the same price? Or,
Well, I told him that things was kind of tight, and we didn't have no extra money to add with it, and he said he was all right with that, if he could just know that when he found it, that he had, you know, that he could go ahead and purchase. If he found one for 6 or less, if he would be all right to go ahead and try to deal on it. And the way I understand it, he's gotta call them tomorrow, and I guess they'll be here to pick the check, bring a check and pick the truck up one day this week's the way I understood him from McEwen.
I don't see it, I mean, you're just swapping a truck for a truck, but I mean, I don't see it being a,
I want them to have what they need, but looks like we're not really responding to very many fires.
That's true,
I mean,
which I guess that's a good thing. for
that's a
the
good
citizens.
thing, but
And the one thing they wanted this for was more per se as a brush.
brush
vehicle,
fire,
so
yeah.
they can get off
It'd be
the
more
road.
of like a brush truck,
They don't have a brush truck.
yeah.
they don't have one now? Oh, okay.
That's the reason they don't respond.
That'd make a
Well,
difference.
say, what does a brush truck do? What's its purpose?
Something that could actually cross a field, get off the road.
Does it carry water or?
It has a small tanker on the back of it, raised.
And a hose, a small hose, I guess on a reel in it.
Yeah, they actually,
So if we needed one, we have to get the county up here, I guess, or Aaron, right?
State, yeah, state.
most of them are with a 500-gallon tank that's in back of the truck. I know the one we used to have was one of those old four-wheel drive.
Yeah, we used to have a brush truck.
I thought we did.
But that's been,
Probably do too.
we surplus. Well, we turned the brush truck into, per se, one of these trucks. I mean, a crash truck, which it does not have the capabilities of pulling off the road. You know, you pretty well gotta stay on solid surfaces. They're two-wheel drive vehicles. Now, the last true brush truck we had was actually the state forestry. It was an army truck. I think it was.
Green color, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Big yellow green.
yeah,
It'd go.
yeah,
Yeah,
I drove it many a mile.
yeah.
You just didn't get there fast.
yeah.
But we've really not had nothing since then. I believe the one truck that the fire department's got now, which it's somewhere in around 200,000 miles. I believe at one time, when we first got it, we used it as a brush truck, right? And I believe that it broke the suspension down on it, of course, that was before my time. I don't really remember. I think Larry was here at that time.
But this one they're wanting to sell, it runs, it's just not in operation, it don't run, I mean, can you?
It runs and it is in operation, but McEwen needed one and we had this one that we was not using at the present time. He thought if he could sell it and get him a four-wheel drive, he would.
If we've got one that, I mean, the wheel drives are not, but I mean, if we've got one and it works and.
It's not a four-wheel.
It's
It's
not,
not a four-wheel drive.
it's not gonna get to some of these fires that happen out off the road.
Y'all just tell me what the board wishes to do, and I'll convey the message.
Well, if it's legal, then we can do it within the time frame for the budget and stuff.
Yeah, as long as you're appropriating it.
I can't see any,
I mean,
problem with
if
it.
we just trading a truck for a truck, that's, I mean, that's what
If he
I'm,
can get it for the same price,
yeah.
or maybe, I mean, you know, we just,
Well, he's done been informed of that there's no added money, so.
Exactly.
he
Yeah.
knows he's gotta operate within that.
$6,000, yes, he does, he understands that.
And when this person doesn't have to have any repairs or anything done to it, or the tank, I mean, we got the tank to put on it and everything.
Yes, we do.
Don't have to buy anything extra to go with it. Maybe later on, 4 or 5 months down the road, come up and say, well, I need this or I need that. The $6,000, sell it for $6,000, buy another one for $6,000, and that's it, right?
He'll have to budget,
Fully operating.
you're always gonna put some money in something.
yeah.
I mean, whether it's tires or something, you're always gonna have to put a little bit once you get something. If not immediately within a short time frame, that's just gonna happen.
Well, I think we've done that on 2 transmissions this year, haven't we? On 2 different
I
vehicles.
think we just bought one transmission
Oh, okay.
on the one ton.
We had some transmission, that plate went out on that big truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, the plate went out, yeah, that's right, on that part, yeah. The other fellow was up, yeah.
But we got lucky on this, it didn't cost us.
I think it was like $200, it wasn't much.
So we actually got out with a whole lot more by transmission, right? And these were junk transmissions, we may have had to have work done on them. They was all up in the $2,500 range. So they do save money when they can.
So what do we need?
I make a motion, we declare the truck surplus equipment. Is that what you need?
So it revert back into general, then Spencer will just show it in his upcoming budget.
If it's not spent this year, to put it in next year's budget.
Which ought to make his budget a little more than what it was this last year. It's gonna have the increase of the $6,000 on it. Whenever it comes time to do the budget, I think we're giving him $35,000 now. What is his budget now?
Yeah.
So you're gonna see an increase from 38 to around, what, 4,400, 44,000? But 6,000 of it will end up being this money here for the truck.
So I think you need a second. Okay, I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
4 years.
Do we have a ISO rating?
We do.
Yeah.
And
Which is really, is that?
low.
Yeah, that's insane.
We have got. We're working on it.
Okay.
That is one reason why we have the tanker.
Okay.
And that actually, did that take us down to 8? I don't know. That's something, do you remember when we bought the tanker? It was
Well, I know that's the reason we bought the
Yeah.
tanker to,
To help.
to help on the ISO
Yeah.
rating, but I'm not up on the numbers like I should be. But we may have bought the tanker to keep us at 9 rather than go back to a 10.
Yeah.
Because we've got some line issues in the old part of the ridge. On that, you have to have a 6-inch line for the truck to pump out of a hydrant. We have very few lines that's actually 6-inch lines.
Most of them
One
4.
going to the lake, but all of our stuff up around Tennessee Ridge here, most of it is 4 and 2. So that's what's hurting us in our ISO rate. And the cost to replace those is where they need to be.
Not feasible.
It's not feasible to offset what it
Yeah.
is on the ISO rate.